I never thought a single mistake could turn my world upside down. One careless glance, one curious impulse, and suddenly, everything I knew about myself was gone. It all started when I was scrolling through my crush's blog late one night. She was flawless. Every photo, every post, every little detail made my chest tighten. I'd admired her from afar for months, but that night, I stumbled across something unusual. A post she'd hidden deep in her archives, a strange, handwritten recipe for a transformation elixir, complete with cryptic warnings. My curiosity ignited, overriding every rational thought. Just a joke, right? I whispered to myself, staring at the screen. But part of me, a part one barely admitted even to myself, wanted to know what it felt like to be her. To look like her, even for a moment. I spent the next 2 hours scavenging the ingredients. Some were ordinary herbs, others were weirdly exotic powders I'd never heard of. My hands shook as I measured, mixed, and stirred, the room smelling faintly of cinnamon and something sharper, metallic. My heart hammered, my mind raced with equal parts fear and excitement. And then I drank it. The world tilted instantly. My vision blurred, my body tingled in ways I couldn't describe, like 1,000 tiny sparks crawling under my skin. I barely had time to grip the edge of my desk before I stumbled to the mirror. I froze. The reflection staring back at me wasn't me. My jawline was softer, my cheeks fuller. My eyes looked larger, more luminous, framed by delicate lashes. My hair fell in perfect waves, just like hers. My clothes hung differently, clinging in ways I'd never imagined on my own body. I felt exposed, alien, and electrified all at once. Oh my God, I breathed. This can't be real. Every instinct screamed at me to undo it, but part of me, maybe the part that had been dreaming about her all along, was rooted to the spot, mesmerized. I touched my face, my fingers tracing unfamiliar curves. My lips were plumper, my skin impossibly smooth. I felt like I was her, and yet trapped in some impossible, intimate version of myself. The next morning, I tried to live normally. That, of course, was impossible. My parents noticed immediately. You look different, my mom said over breakfast, squinting as she poured coffee. I just slept weird, I mumbled, avoiding her gaze. Every step towards school felt like walking a tightrope. I caught glimpses of my reflection in car windows, store mirrors, and even my phone screen. Each time, my heart raced, excitement mingled with a deep, gnawing panic. At school, it only got worse. People stared. Whispers followed me down the hallways, their eyes lingering on my new form in ways that made my stomach twist. My crush, or rather, my new reflection of her, walked past me at lunch. I froze. Did anyone notice? Did she notice? Could she feel that I was her? Are you okay? One of my friends asked, voice low and concerned. I forced a nod, laughing nervously. Yeah, just tired. Inside, I was anything but okay. Every glance in the mirror, every whisper from classmates, every accidental brush of a stranger's hand made me feel a surge of anxiety mixed with something thrilling. It was intoxicating, confusing, and utterly consuming. After a few days of living in this new body, I realized I couldn't go on pretending forever. So, I started experimenting, quietly, secretly. My room became a laboratory of self-discovery. I stood in front of the mirror for hours, studying the curves, the subtle differences in my movements, the way my new voice sounded when I spoke. I experimented with makeup, tracing eyeliner along my upper lid, applying blush to my cheekbones. Each stroke made me feel more like her, yet strangely, also like me, as if I had discovered a hidden version of myself that had always existed. I tried on her clothes, jeans, skirts, sweaters, jackets, and each one fit in a surreal, perfect way. The softness of the fabric against my skin, the way my body moved in ways I'd never experienced, made me dizzy. I started practicing her walk, her gestures, even her laugh, all in the solitude of my bedroom. No one could see me here. No one could judge me. And yet, the thrill was addictive. I loved it. I hated it. I hated loving it. Then came my first real test, going outside. I picked a quiet Saturday morning, dressed carefully, and ventured out. The street was empty at first, the sun washing everything in gold. I could feel the world noticing me, even if no one said a word. I passed a cafe, glimpsed my reflection in the glass, and froze. There I was, looking exactly like her. A passerby smiled, lingering just a beat too long. My heart fluttered. I heard whispers as I walked further, soft murmurs that seemed to trail behind me. Some of it terrified me, but some of it made me bold, confident. For the first time in my life, I felt seen, not as myself, but as this new persona, this alluring, magnetic version of me. I started going further, testing boundaries. I talked to strangers, laughed more freely, experimented with subtle flirting, watching reactions. Each success, small compliments, lingering glances, brief conversations, built a new layer of confidence. And with each failure, awkward stumbles, misread signals, trips over my own heels, I learned more about her and about me. Weeks passed, and the line between me and her blurred. I realized I had two lives now, the one everyone knew, and the one I was exploring in secret. I even started keeping a diary, detailing my experiments, my feelings, the strange combination of fear and exhilaration that filled every moment. But secrets have a way of catching up with you. One day, at school, a group of classmates cornered me in the hallway. "You've changed," one of them said, eyes wide. "Are you really okay?" My heart hammered. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, to hide. But then, a strange calm washed over me. I realized something profound. I was okay. More than okay. I was discovering a side of myself that had always been buried, that had been waiting for courage to surface. I smiled, standing a little taller. "Yeah," I said, voice a little higher, softer. "I'm really okay." It was the first time I said it aloud and truly meant it. The turning point came at a weekend party. I had dressed fully in her style, heels, flowing dress, perfectly styled hair, and stepped into a room full of people who had never seen me like this. For a moment, panic threatened to consume me. But then, something incredible happened. People approached me. They laughed with me, complimented me, even sought my company. I felt the power of authenticity for the first time. Not pretending, not hiding, just being. And when someone called my name, her name, almost instinctively, I didn't flinch. I embraced it, smiled, and let the world see this side of me without shame. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. And it was mine. Of course, challenges remained. At home, I had to navigate careful explanations, half-truths, and selective silences. But even there, the transformation had changed me. My parents noticed not just the physical shift, but the new confidence, the self-possession, the quiet assertion that I could be both me and something new. Work was harder, at first. Old colleagues struggled to reconcile the person they knew with the one standing before them now. Some whispered. Some stayed. But those who mattered, the ones who really saw me, adapted. They respected me, acknowledged me, and even celebrated the boldness it took to exist authentically. By the time I fully embraced my new identity, the transformation had ceased to be about her. It had started with her, yes, but it became about me. About discovering courage I never knew I had, exploring beauty I had only dreamed of, and learning that identity wasn't fixed. It was fluid, evolving, and sometimes, terrifyingly exciting. I looked in the mirror one morning, traced my face with my fingers, and smiled, not at her, not at me as I once was, but at the me I had become. Confident. Fearless. Alive. I realized something I hadn't before. It wasn't about turning into someone else. It was about giving myself permission to be seen, to experiment, to take up space, and to embrace all the possibilities of who I could be. Now, months later, I move through the world differently. I walk taller. I speak louder. I laugh freely. And every time I catch a reflection, whether in a cafe window, a shop mirror, or my own bedroom, I don't see just her. I see me. The potion started it all. But it didn't define me. I defined me. And that's the secret I want to share with you. Transformation isn't about magic, potions, or looking like someone else. It's about daring to explore, to experiment, and to embrace the courage it takes to live authentically. So if you ever find yourself standing in front of a mirror, curious, afraid, but yearning to see another version of yourself, don't be afraid to take the first step. Not because it will make you someone else, but because it might just help you find the truest, most powerful version of you waiting all along. And sometimes, just sometimes, the reflection staring back might be someone you've always dreamed of becoming. Even after months of living as her, as me, I realized something startling. Life didn't pause just because I had transformed. In fact, the world became far more complicated. What started as a thrilling secret, an experiment in curiosity, had now woven itself into every corner of my life. And the more I embraced this new identity, the more I understood that every choice came with consequences. It began subtly at first. People around me, friends, classmates, co-workers, started acting differently. Some were friendlier, drawn to the confidence I radiated. Others, though, seemed uncomfortable, as if the me they knew had been replaced by someone unrecognizable. I could feel whispers, feel the judgment in half-finished glances, and sometimes it was exhausting. Then came the hardest part, my crush. Seeing her after the transformation had started as a thrill, an obsession, even, but now it was complicated. She looked at me differently, with curiosity, maybe suspicion. Once, she caught me laughing in a way that mimicked her own, and her eyes narrowed slightly. "Have we met before?" she asked one afternoon, tilting her head. Her tone was playful but probing. My stomach lurched. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "I don't think so," I said, forcing a laugh that sounded shakier than I wanted. Inside, panic and exhilaration tangled into one chaotic mess. Part of me wanted to confess, to tell her everything. But another part, the part that had learned to protect this secret life, this fragile self-confidence, shouted to stay silent. Private exploration became my refuge again. I would spend hours in my room, experimenting with subtle nuances. Not just makeup or clothes, but mannerisms, voice pitch, even my handwriting. I wanted to own this identity, not just wear it like a costume. I began journaling more rigorously, recording every interaction, every emotion. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was survival, growth, and self-discovery all rolled into one. One night, I caught myself staring in the mirror for nearly an hour, tracing the curve of my jawline, the arch of my brows, the subtle flare of my nostrils. I whispered aloud, "You're not just her, you're you." It felt like a mantra, grounding me amid a storm of identity, desire, and fear. And then came the invitation that changed everything, a local costume gala. I had been secretly practicing social interactions in public, but this was different. It wasn't just casual outings, it was a full-on event, a place where everyone would see me as someone else, intentionally. My pulse raced with both terror and excitement. I spent the week preparing meticulously. Hair perfectly curled, makeup sharp yet soft, outfit carefully selected to evoke elegance without seeming forced. When I stepped into the event, the room seemed to pause. Heads turned. Conversations dwindled. Whispers rippled. And for the first time in months, I felt powerful. Not invisible, not hidden, seen. I danced, laughed, flirted, subtle, innocent interactions that felt electric in their simplicity. I watched as people reacted, and with each reaction, a sense of control and confidence bloomed within me. But then, someone familiar appeared at the edge of the crowd, her. My crush. The air around me thickened. I could feel her gaze tracing me, her curiosity sharp. Part of me wanted to flee, to vanish into the shadows. But I remembered the mantra I had whispered countless times in front of the mirror. "You're not just her, you're you." So I faced her. She smiled, almost teasingly. "You're different," she said. Not a question, just a statement. "I guess I am," I admitted, voice steadier than I thought possible. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I like it," she said, almost under her breath. My heart thudded. That single phrase, simple, casual, felt like validation of everything I had been fighting to understand about myself. But reality had a way of crashing in. Returning home after the gala, I was confronted by my parents. My dad had noticed the careful alterations in my wardrobe, my gestures, the subtle way I carried myself. "We need to talk," he said, his tone serious but not angry. My stomach dropped. Every instinct screamed that this conversation could undo everything I had built. I took a deep breath. "I know I look different," I began. "But I'm still me. I just needed to explore who I could be." He was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he said, "We just want you to be safe. And happy. But you need to be honest with yourself, and us." It hit me then, my journey wasn't just about external transformation. It was about honesty, courage, and the willingness to face judgment, fear, and even disappointment. The potion had started the change, yes, but living it required bravery I hadn't fully understood. The turning point came unexpectedly at school the following week. One of my classmates, someone I thought I trusted, cornered me in the hallway. "You've changed," she said sharply. "Is this real? Or are you just pretending?" My heart raced. For a moment, I wanted to shrink back, to hide behind excuses. But then I remembered all the hours I had spent experimenting, learning, growing. I remembered the gala, the confidence I had felt, and the quiet satisfaction of finally embracing my reflection. "I'm real," I said firmly. "More real than I've ever been." Her eyes widened, caught off guard by my conviction. She nodded slowly, almost reluctantly. "Okay. I see that." It was a small victory, but one that mattered profoundly. Every interaction, every confrontation, became a test of authenticity. And with each one, I learned more about boundaries, self-respect, and the power of being unapologetically yourself. Then came the most extraordinary moment, an unexpected conversation with my crush, the real her, outside the campus cafe. "I've been watching you," she said, sipping her coffee. My pulse surged. Not in a creepy way. "You've changed. You're bold, confident, and, honestly, kind of amazing." Her words left me speechless. They weren't about appearance, they were about essence. About how I carried myself, how I interacted, how I existed in the world. And suddenly, I understood. The potion had only given me a chance. It hadn't created this courage. I had. "Thank you," I said softly, my voice carrying the weight of months of self-discovery. She smiled, lightly, and nodded. "Keep being you. Whoever that is. Because you are something special." By now, the distinction between me and her had blurred completely, but in the most beautiful way. The identity I had adopted wasn't just imitation, it was evolution. I had taken the inspiration of someone I admired and turned it into my own strength, my own expression of beauty, confidence, and self-love. I started mentoring others, friends, classmates, anyone struggling with self-expression. I shared my story, carefully, thoughtfully, emphasizing courage, exploration, and authenticity. And watching them flourish, seeing their faces light up with newfound confidence, reminded me that the most powerful transformations are never just physical. They are emotional, mental, and spiritual. The months that followed were a delicate balance of integration and authenticity. I maintained relationships with friends and family, carefully navigating the complexities of my dual life. But the fear that had once gripped me, fear of judgment, fear of exposure, diminished with each act of honesty, each brave choice, each affirmation of self-worth. I realized that the potion had done something miraculous, yes. It had opened the door to transformation. But the true magic, the lasting change, came from within. It came from the courage to explore, the willingness to confront fear, and the choice to embrace every facet of who I could be. I looked in the mirror one morning, tracing the curves, the contours, the subtle expressions that made me me. I smiled, fully and unapologetically. This was no longer about her. This was about me, bold, confident, radiant, and unafraid. And in that reflection, I saw everything I had always wanted to be. Brave, authentic, and free. The potion had started it. But I had finished it. And now, I wouldn't trade this journey for anything.